Welcome to Tangential Soup, a fortnightly podcast discussing life in Australia, technology, food, fitness and the like, hosted by myself, David Caddy, Melburnian, independent developer and tea enthusiast, as well as my good childhood friend, Alexander Carr, Sydney-sider, karate practitioner and lover of adventure. And this week, we're also joined by another good childhood friend of both Alex and I, Axel Freeman. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you both.
And you've prepared quite an in-depth take on a recent event, the Iowa Caucus. So maybe you can just start off by running us through what you found.
Yeah, let me just say as well, I was very impressed by your notes here, Axel, because
super thorough.
As we were mentioning before, David and I have never prepared notes nearly as thorough as the ones you've prepared for this, so well done.
Usually we just drop a link into the document. This is
we too, yes.
Pages and pages.
Yeah, I think I might have gone overboard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure what attracted me to the story. I guess, yeah, it's just an interesting event that had such a larger impact, I suppose.
Well, the event in itself is quite important.
Yeah.
The primaries for the Democrats. Hopefully whoever they pick ends up beating Trump.
I'm not sure what their chances are against Trump, like no matter who they pick. I thought I saw something that said that the winner of Iowa was more likely to be the actual candidate, but that's not true. So it may just be overblown, sort of the significance of the event anyway.
Well, I did see something that said that everyone who wins Iowa goes on to win the nomination. I don't know whether that was some democratic rule or just how it has worked out in the past.
Probably historically.
I saw that too, so I actually looked it up, and it's only about 56% of the people who win Iowa go on to win the candidacy. Since 1972, yeah. I thought it would be, like, it sounds true, but I guess it just has, it's more of a PR effect. I guess they get to claim their first win.
Slightly favoured.
Given the number of candidates, it's still a very good win rate based on, because, usually at this stage of the event, you've got several Democratic candidates up for election, and 50% of the who have won an Iowa have ended up going on to win. That's still pretty decisive, right?
Yeah, I think it's, if you're in the top three, you're basically guaranteed historically. So make of that as you will.
Have they actually figured out what the results are, like 100% yet, or they're just pretty sure?
I'm not sure if they've done the re-caucus yet, which is sort of like a recalculation, not a recount.
Yeah, there was something that was in dispute, wasn't there?
Yeah. So they had a bit of trouble gathering the results of the caucuses on the night due to an app and several other things. Like they have the backup system or the traditional system of just marking voting cards, and then they ring up and I assume the Iowa Democratic Party and just report the results, except the phone lines were clogged and they couldn't get through. And they sent emails. People just started taking pictures of the voting cards, and yeah, they just sent them through to headquarters because they couldn't get through any other way. And on Tuesday morning, no one had checked the mailbox, so there was about 700 unread emails.
Oh my Lord.
So it was, a bit of a disaster kind of on every front, really. It's just kind of one of those days.
This is why you shouldn't do electronic voting.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
One of many reasons.
One of many reasons, yes. I'm sure we'll get to that in a sec. They have such a complicated system. I don't have trouble understanding how they even do it in the first place.
Why does it need to be so complicated? Did you understand that?
No. I've yet to find the virtues of the system they use, only that they use it for some unknown reason. It's fairly arcane. I don't think me explaining it would be able to do it justice. So you might have to go look it up yourself if you can.
I'll probably just, whoever the contractor was, convince them that this was the way to do it.
Well, maybe this time, because of this, they will change it or be looked at. I'm not sure. I haven't heard anyone saying that, but maybe they will change it.
This seems to be the problem for a lot of the electoral processes in the US, though, and they're difficult to change because of the way the law works in the US. And I don't exactly understand how the law works in the US, but it seems that they have trouble changing all these ridiculous things that don't work because of some particular reasons that just seem to stop them from making any meaningful change.
Yeah, I'm not too sure either how they do it. There's such a big divide between federal and state. Sometimes they just say it's the state's problem and then the state has to deal with it. I'm not sure if that's the case here. I guess it's just tradition, so they've just stuck with it so far. But it's fairly complicated. And like the federal election in 2016, the winner of the popular vote has lost, which is Bernie Sanders.
Yes, yeah.
He got less delegates, which is sort of what counts, I guess, towards the nomination process. So, yeah, I guess, is that a system that works? I'm not sure.
Doesn't seem to be.
Well, the problem is it's never super fair, is it? Like, it was sort of fair when they kind of put the system in place, and they do keep adjusting it, but it's never like 100%.
So are we referring at the moment to the weighted vote system where not every vote is equal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can understand the sort of clumping to an extent, but then sometimes like the difference between one region and another region in terms of what the actual value of the vote is very disproportionate.
Yes, it is. Yeah. I mean, having that weighted vote system, it seems to me like it never should have been. I mean, obviously it was put in place probably to appease some states being brought into the US, but you know, it's not the system they should be using at all, because then you can have certain issues that don't affect the vast majority of the population having the outweighted vote in the rest of the voting system.
Mm.
And yeah, it just generally makes it unfair, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah, it is very complicated, their system.
Yeah, ridiculously complicated. My understanding is because they've got a constitution as well, it makes it really difficult to change anything. Because if you change something, then you've got to change, or something big, I suppose, then you've got to change the constitution itself.
Mm.
Put amendments onto the constitution.
But they have amended it plenty of times before. But yeah, it does add a level of resistance, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah. But, I mean, that's what we seem to be hearing about all the time, the US and their various problems. Trump, the impeachment, everything that kind of seems to go on over there.
The non-impeachment.
The non-impeachment, yeah, yeah. I heard they were going to try and impeach him again. Have you heard anything about that?
No, actually.
It just seems to me that the first one was such a success. Why wouldn't you do it again?
I was very surprised what they actually brought the impeachment case against him with. Like, I know that's because they sort of had more proof than the other things, but it seemed pretty weak compared to the other things that he's done.
Well, what would you have thought they would have brought against him?
Because it wasn't really about like the Russian meddling and all that, was it? It was only really around that phone call.
Well, yeah, that was one of the things, I think. And there was something else about abusing the power of office. I don't know what the second charge actually was, though.
Yeah, but it was all around trying to dig up dirt and with the Ukrainians, right? Like that's what the whole case was around. But I mean, I know that's bad and what have you, but I feel like that's a lot less bad than other things that we're pretty sure that he's done.
Oh, absolutely.
But I know it was just because they had like such clear evidence that he did that's why they brought it. But I was like, really? You're going to go with that? Okay. I was skeptical they were going to get it over the line, and they didn't.
Yes, the rest was history.
Yeah.
I think they run into the problem of they've sort of worked themselves into a corner where the language of what he is accused of, like high crimes and misdemeanors, I think it was, is just kind of quite vague.
Mm.
So it's hard to make a case that this specific thing that he did is, that.
And with the other rules around the president sort of being above the law in many respects, it's sort of hard to tally out.
Yeah, which is a little awkward for a country that
it is.
Had a revolution to decide that. But
I don't know how he's going to fare when he's out, though. Whether that's this year or in 4 years' time, I feel like, all these charges are going to build up and he will get taken down for them, right? Or will they just drop it and not care anymore?
Apparently there's been no president who has actually been accused or successfully, convicted of a crime after they've left office. I mean, even, Reagan was on the verge of being impeached successfully, I believe, and then he stepped down, and the same with Clinton as well. And they both did commit what I understand were crimes, but neither of them were actually successfully charged with them.
Yeah, they resign and they take deals and things, right?
Yeah,
I suppose so, yeah.
Was Nixon pardoned, I think, afterwards, just to clear him?
Yeah, that's possible. I mean, if you think about it, though, the president is given a lot of incredibly sensitive information, and having the president put in jail, I suppose, is a huge security risk for America in general. So either you've got to, I guess, kill him or pardon him.
Possibly. I think they've, worked themselves into a corner, basically, regarding the presidency and what he can and can't do.
Yeah.
It's going to come to a head pretty soon.
But again, it's probably all in the Constitution and that, right? So they'll never be able to change it.
Well, that's true as well. Yeah. They can only put more on. They can't take anything off.
No.
Yeah, I'm not sure how they can amend stuff. I know, like, we have a constitution, and to amend something on it, we have to have a referendum, and all the states, like, the general public have to agree. All the states, I think it's majority of the states have to agree or something like that. So it usually has to be something quite significant.
Okay, well, that's interesting. We don't seem to quite have the same problem that America does, though. It is a lot bigger, though. I mean, America's got the 50 states. Maybe that's part of their problem. They just can't agree on anything.
Well, yeah, that would make it a lot harder.
I mean, really, there isn't really another comparable country like that, is there, that has such a large population but so many small kind of areas that are very distinct from each other.
And they all have their own sort of identity, too.
They do, yeah.
Like Americans will always say the state they're from, not just they're from America.
Without fail.
Yes.
I guess the closest comparison is the EU, but that's a whole different kettle of fish, I suppose.
Is it Scotland that's going to have another referendum about the Brexit?
It wouldn't surprise me. I haven't heard.
Because they had their referendum before
the
rest of the UK, right?
They did, and it was like the opposite of the UK's. So it just failed, whereas the UK's just succeeded. I did read in the news that the top minister from Scotland did say that it's just a matter of time before they hold another referendum. Obviously, that's nothing official, but seems to suggest they want to at least.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's happening.
Yeah.
Does that mean, though, that Scotland might separate from the UK and then still be part of the EU? It's going to be a weird situation.
I think that's what would have to happen, yeah.
And are they going to then have a hard border like the UK has with the rest of the EU? I mean, what's going to be the plan there exactly? And I mean, wasn't one of the things that they wanted to separate from the UK, but obviously they use the pound and everything like that. So are they going to separate from the UK and then join the EU straight away and just use the euro?
Maybe.
It would make sense, right?
It would probably be a gradual transition, though.
Yeah.
It'd have to be, wouldn't it?
You would think so.
So anyway, back to the Caucus.
Yes.
What other interesting things did you find out, Axeman?
I guess, just on the night, it was complete chaos.
Yeah, I know they were trying to report results and no results were coming through.
Yeah, I think several of the candidates sort of claimed victory that night, which is, considering how close it was, it's probably not such a bad thing to do. And yeah, no, there's no outside influence. I think it's just a sort of human error and programming error just came together to create this glorious mess. Yeah, I think they finally got 100% of the results on the Thursday. So it took, 4 full days pretty much to certify that, all the results have been counted, correct. But yeah, they've since asked for a recanvass.
And I'm sure like the whole point of this system that they implemented, or one of the features they were touting, would have been the speed at which they could get the results compared to the old system.
Yes, because the app isn't just. I want to try and avoid describing the caucus process because I don't have my notes on hand at the moment, and it's quite detailed. But they essentially all the registered Democrats turn up on the night, and they just sort of move into different areas in the room. And then they count the number of people that have arrived and then work out the percentage each candidate needs to achieve a delegate or multiple delegates. And then they do the math sort of on their table, or the district chair does the math with the help of, I assume, assistants. And then they send that result off to the headquarters. And then the app was supposed to replace that where whoever's running the event can just put in the numbers and the app will calculate it for them and then send that off. But they had trouble logging in. They had trouble putting on their phones.
How many sites are there, do you know?
Off memory is about 1,700 different caucuses.
Is it true that when they arrive, the candidates have to stand in different corners of the room depending on who they want to be the candidate?
So it's not like elections here where you just turn up and write your vote and just put it in a little box. They literally corral everyone into different corners, and people are encouraged to like cross the floor and just because eventually I guess they close the doors at some point, and so the total number of people there is known, and then people can work out pretty quickly the minimum percentage of people they need to get a delegate, and so there's all sorts of I don't know why they do it, but
wooing. That's live. That's wooing.
The system. Yes,
that's just so bizarre.
Yeah. Yeah, so it seems fairly traditional, as you'd probably see now you've heard the description.
Yeah.
But then that means that the app was only really being used by that 1,700, 2,000 odd people.
I'm not sure if it's used by one person per side or just like them and all their helpers or something.
True, but that's still a relatively low number.
Yeah, it's quite a low number.
For a system.
Yeah.
Like it's not like it would have been overloaded or anything, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm not sure what exactly the error was. I think it was people had trouble logging in, and I think then sending the results back.
It seems pretty basic to me.
I think they got the app maybe 1 or 2 weeks beforehand. They didn't receive any official training, I don't think.
Yeah.
The app's budget was pretty small. It was like $60,000 to develop it. Yeah, I have linked an article in the show notes. I think it was about 2 weeks beforehand. So it's just sort of all these concerns coming out about what could go wrong. I think it was mostly about security, like foreign interference.
Yeah.
But it turns out it was just the app didn't work.
Well, I'm sure for that budget, like the security wouldn't have been that great. So I can understand the security concerns. But really, the whole idea, unless I'm missing something fundamental, doesn't seem that hard. So unless they literally threw it together in like the few days beforehand, I don't understand why they couldn't have tested it and made it work.
I'm not sure. There was a bit of secrecy around it. They didn't reveal what it was until not too far, maybe the week beforehand.
Security through obscurity.
Maybe. They didn't reveal the developer or the app. But as far as I know, no interference has been reported or claimed. It's just sort of an error. And they do have the paper votes as backup, which they've checked.
Yeah. Well, if you were interfering, you wouldn't want to do it in such a way that it would hold everything up, because then people would get suspicious. So yeah, it's more just human error, I'm sure. I still find it mind-boggling, though. Like, there's so many issues with electronic voting, but this should not be one of them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's partly because a process like this sort of relies so much on trust that you really have to get it right, like the first time, and like every time.
Yeah, are they going to get another contract, whoever put this together?
Well, I think the next day they said they're not going to use the app. I'm not sure if they're going to use a different app next time. Maybe not, considering how this one went.
Paper's annoying, but it's accurate.
I mean...
And it works. It's proven to work.
Yeah, if it's proven to work, I'm not sure why they felt the need to add something new to it. Who knows?
Well, it always sounds good in theory. You know, it's going to be faster, it's going to be quicker, it's going to be less effort involved.
Yeah, quick results is definitely important. From what you can see, like people start claiming victories at the same night. People have to know the result. I guess that is important, but yeah, unfortunately... did not happen spectacularly.
Nope.
No, it's all. It all sounds like a bit of a mess, and it's such a pity as well. Because if they could have moved to something like this, then I'm sure it would have made everyone's life easier in the long run.
And for the Russians.
Well, yeah. I mean, hopefully it would be a secure app, so it would just be making the people of the US's life easier.
But you can never make a system that's 100% secure.
Well, I mean, doesn't the same problem exist with paper voting, though?
Yes, however, to systematically target the level of votes or the number of votes that you could target with an electronic system versus a paper system would require so much more coordination. Not saying it's impossible, but whereas you can have one really good hacker versus, I don't know, you'd have to have thousands and thousands of people tampering with things all over the country to, make the same sort of impact.
Right, okay.
So that's the difference.
Yeah. Still, it feels like it would be fantastic if we could get to the stage where we don't have to rely on paper voting because it feels so clumsy.
It is, but we're never going to get there.
Okay.
It's impossible. There's no way you can
Oh,
make
really?
a system that's 100% trusted by everyone and that can be verified.
Oh, okay.
Because there's always some point that you have to trust implicitly. But then, in a democratic process, you've then taken the power of the people and put it into one place, which is never, never good. That's why you always want it massively distributed. That's why the paper system is really the only one that can actually work for such things on mass scale and be trusted. Like paper voting is not 100%, never will be, never has been. But the level of which you can trust it is always going to be far greater than an electronic system. And that's, one properly done with huge amount of time and experience put into it instead of these slapdash things that everyone is trying.
Well, that's interesting. I actually I never realized that paper system will be the way of the future, from what you say.
Basically for everything else, not. But for this, I've been convinced. Tom Scott did a good video that I linked to you, but clearly you didn't watch it. But
No.
he makes a lot of sense. And
yeah.
What do you think, Ax?
I did watch it. I actually watched it before you linked it, so I thought it was funny.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was just searching around on YouTube for stuff and related to the app, and that came up. What is it? To paraphrase Churchill, it's the worst except for all the other systems regarding paper voting.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it is a shame we'll miss out on like real-time voting, but I'm not sure if we want that.
For small, less consequential things, it's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
But for something so major, I think we should just stick with paper.
Okay, it makes sense. It makes sense what you're saying, even if I don't particularly like it.
I mean, I don't like it either. I love technology. Technology is great, but some things technology should just stay out of, and this is one of them.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. All right, should we move on to the next topic?
Mm-hmm.
What did we decide was next? The emojis?
Yeah, new emojis coming in 2020, like every year.
Yeah.
But as is tradition on this podcast, we like to touch on them.
Yes, yeah, good idea.
So what's your favourite of the new set? There's 117 new ones this year.
Well, I have to say my favorite is probably the placard. Because, I mean, the way that they've described it on the on emojimedia.org, it just looks like a sign. So I'm not really sure how they're going to separate the sign from the placard. And I mean, essentially, that's what a placard is, right? It's a sign.
Yes. Specific type of sign.
Well, yeah, it is. Yeah, but it's a variety of sign. And it looks like a sign here. So
I guess there was just so much need for the placard.
Yes. Well, that's true. I don't know. It feels to me a bit like they were scraping the bottom of the barrel with that one. But
a little bit.
Maybe there is need. What's your favourite, Axel?
It's got to be the pinched fingers. I don't know. I think I'd use that for emphasis a lot.
I'm just looking for it now.
What does that 100% mean, though? It's sort of like the Italian, like, come on.
Yeah, it's
that was
flexible.
what I thought.
Well, that's what it's officially called, pinched fingers.
So it's called pinched fingers, but it's not when you pinch your fingers to show that something is a very small amount.
No, it's...
Well, that's almost pinched, right? That's pinching.
Oh, that's true.
It's not fully pinched.
Yeah.
See, these distinctions are important with emojis.
They are, yeah.
It is interesting how emojis work and come into being with the Unicode Consortium deciding on what they are, but they don't actually make a picture of the emoji. All they do is they write down a description of them. And then I think there is an official version of it, but that comes after the description. So they write like this small couple of sentences what it is, or even less than that. And that's like the official take on it. So sometimes, I mean, they're better now than they used to be, but definitely back in history, quite a lot of things used to be open to interpretation.
Yeah, I think we covered that quite a while ago, didn't we?
We did, yeah.
Yeah.
I did not know that. That's pretty interesting.
And every single vendor makes their own set of emoji. So Apple, Microsoft, Google, they're all different artists coming up with them based on the description.
All right.
So what's your favourite, David?
Well, we've got a few, more Aussie-related things here, don't we? We've got a boomerang.
Yeah, we've got a boomerang, yep.
And I would say the thongs are kind of Aussie, boganish. The flip-flops.
For those outside of Australia.
Or jandals, if you're from New Zealand.
That's true, yeah.
So many different names.
Yeah, I do like it how bubble tea's made it in.
Well, yeah. It's so popular, though.
Oh, it
So I
is.
guess it makes
It is.
sense. I always walk past, shops in Melbourne, and there's like lines out the front, like on Spencer Street. And you go, what's this crowd for? Oh, it's just bubble tea.
Yeah, or cheesecake. Are you getting cheesecake lines in Melbourne?
To some extent, not as much as the bubble tea, though.
No, it's not as big. It's not as big,
No.
but it is a thing. Do you like bubble tea?
It's too sweet for me. Way too sweet.
You can reduce the sugar in it. You don't have to have full sugar. You can
I'm
say
sure
I just
you
want
can.
25% sugar.
But, as the standard...
You pay for 100% sugar. You want 100% sugar.
Well, exactly.
You're telling.
But I find that with all the sort of Asian beverages, they're just so sweet.
Well, I like it actually, but I don't like it with 100% sugar. I usually get it with either 25 or 50% sugar.
Okay.
Because I can't have that amount of sugar. It makes me feel sick.
Even then, though, I think that would be too much. Like, I have tea and coffee without sugar.
Well, yeah.
Like, at all. And I just, like, I think it makes it taste worse.
In that we differ. I actually like my sugar.
Mm-hmm.
Do you like it, Axel?
Yeah. I'm not sure how people function with just black coffee without sugar, or just coffee without sugar in general.
I've got to have a dash of milk, otherwise it's too bitter.
Yeah.
But no sugar.
Yeah, it's just too bitter if I don't have sugar, generally.
That's fair enough.
But it's so tasty.
Well, I mean, do you drink instant coffee, David?
Well, I do, mostly.
Okay. And you will drink instant coffee without sugar?
Yeah, of course.
Ooh.
You can't do it? Can't do it?
I can't stand the taste of instant coffee generally. I have to have sugar to
Such
make
a
it
coffee
bearable.
snob. You didn't even drink coffee like 5 years ago.
I've kind of stopped now. I have it when I don't have anything to do during the day because I find it tends to make me. It actually doesn't help my concentration at all. It just makes me jittery.
Yeah.
And unless I'm doing something that I'm actually going to be able to burn off all that caffeine energy, I don't drink it. Or else I just tend to feel a bit anxious. Do you drink bubble tea, Axel?
No, I haven't actually tried it. I should. Like Dave, I've seen massive lines, so I have been tempted, but it seemed like it would take a while to get them.
Yeah. It puts you off a bit.
They have died down a bit, though, I've noticed. So maybe
Probably. Maybe there's just more establishments.
Yeah.
Usually when they're open, they've got a line, but you can always. Sometimes they won't have a line. You've got to pick the right thing though, because depending on the place you're going to, there are some larger chains like what are they called, Coco and Share Tea and Easy Way as well. They're kind of three of the bigger ones, certainly around Sydney. And if you do go to there, make sure you just get something nice, just one of their traditional tea varieties instead of going for something weird, or you might not really be able to appreciate the actual taste of it, if that makes sense.
What would you classify as something weird?
Well, there are usually several fruit varieties of tea which can be okay, but they can be a bit strange. Matcha, depending on if you like it. I mean, I quite like matcha, so it's not strange for me, but you might find it a bit odd. They'll usually do, as I said, fruit teas, but they might do fruit teas with milk or without milk. They might be black teas. They might do green teas varieties with milk. So strange for us, probably not strange for people who are well acquainted with bubble tea. But you might find it a bit odd and decide to just go for something a bit out there, but you might not like that, which is why I'm saying if you do want to have a good experience, maybe go there and just try something that you might recognize more easily so that you can compare the flavors.
Okay.
So I usually just go with a milk tea. So they'll usually just have a black tea variety, which I don't know what the usual black tea variety is, but they have a black tea variety with milk in it, and then you can have some pearls, and then you can get some extra toppings if you'd like. And the toppings are just like jellies, and you can have some kind of custard jelly put in there as well, depending on what you like.
Custard jelly in tea?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
You sound skeptical, David.
Very skeptical. I mean, I like custard and I like tea, but together?
Well, don't knock it till you've tried it. It used to be one of my more favorite varieties. Of course, if you can go to the big chains, or some of the smaller places do specialty kind of things, and they might focus more on certain aspects. There's one near to where I live that does delicious pearls. So that the pearls are those little balls that you have inside the tea, and they're flavored. And this shop just does flavored delicious pearls. So each shop might kind of have its own gimmick, and I think that a lot of the places now sell yogurt drinks as well. So I don't know exactly how they work, but those are options too. So there's lots to try if you're game.
What are the pearls made of exactly?
Tapioca.
Okay.
Yeah. They're just tapioca balls, and if they're flavored, then they've had some flavoring put in the tapioca ball making process. Not exactly sure how it happens. I did actually see a video on it once, and they just did all this fancy stuff, but I didn't pay enough attention to it to actually know. I think a lot of it happens in a machine, though.
Okay. I presume that's where the name bubble tea comes from.
It is. Yeah.
Or is it something else?
No, the bubbles. Well, I believe
the balls
it is.
are bubbles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I've always thought. If I'm wrong, though, maybe one day I'll find out.
Get a flood of feedback.
Yes. All of our adoring fans.
Yes. I think my favourite is the ute, just to answer your earlier question that I didn't actually answer.
Oh, the ute. Okay. Yes, I see the ute.
Or pickup truck.
Yeah, I mean, is there a van currently? Are there different varieties of car at the moment? There is a truck, isn't there?
There's a car and a truck. I don't know if there's a van or a station wagon. But we'll probably get them in due course.
We will.
All right, do you want to go on to your topic, Alex?
Yes, I do.
The one you prepared earlier?
Yes, well, this is the one I prepared earlier, so prepare yourselves.
Much earlier.
For me to be able to speak with a certain amount of knowledge for once.
Authority.
Assuming I haven't forgotten it, because I prepared this 2 weeks ago now.
Too prepared.
Yeah.
One might say.
Well, probably not in relation to me. To start off. We'll see. So, I did want to talk about weed being legalized in the ACT. I just thought it was very interesting. Obviously, given the context of the US, certain states in the US legalizing marijuana, and I think it's generally being seen as more tolerated around the world since the US has made that decision. There are obviously certain places that weed has been tolerated for quite a while now. The Netherlands being one of them. It is actually legal in India as well.
Okay.
But not. It's legal without being
legal.
I guess a big kind of thing. They don't call it marijuana over there. They call it, I think, biyang or something like that. And there are certain shops that are allowed to sell not actual marijuana itself, but marijuana products, just because it's for so long been a traditional part of certain festivals in India that I think they've just found it too difficult to make it entirely illegal. So they just, I suppose, have had a campaign where it's not really seen as acceptable to be or to use it outside of these festival times, if that makes sense.
Okay.
But when I travelled through India, it was available in a very small number of shops there. Now, what I found out about this legalization, and I'm doing kind of air quotes around legalization because it's only legal. It's been legalized by the state government, not the federal government. And I shouldn't say it's actually legal. Sorry, it's no longer. It's been decriminalized by the state government. It's not actually legal. If you're in possession of up to 50 grams of it, the police can still, I believe, confiscate it, but you won't be given any criminal charges because of it. From what I was reading, the laws are all very murky around how it actually works. They seem to think that you can still be fined for carrying up to 50 grams, but they're not sure that the police would actually give any fines. And no one's been in a position where they've been in possession of this amount, been caught by the police, and then had to go through the criminal process yet. So at the moment, things are kind of still up in the air, and everyone's just trying to guess what exactly would happen if someone did come into this situation. Currently, the state government is saying that you can grow up to 2 plants, although you can't legally purchase seeds anywhere. You can only use it on your own property, and the property must have no access to the public or children, and it's still illegal to distribute it.
And no hydroponics.
Probably not.
No, it's got to be like just in your backyard, like outside.
Okay. I don't know. I didn't say that, but if you say so, I believe it. That makes sense.
I guess that's just to make sure that it's out in the open, I suppose.
Well, yeah, maybe. I don't see what the harm would be in having it inside, though, whether it's inside or outside.
Well, then it's harder to know whether you've got 2 or 24 plants.
Well, that's
I'm guessing that's the thinking behind it. I don't know. Yeah. Or maybe they just grow better under those conditions, which is not what they want. They want it purely recreational, sort of purely personal.
Well, yeah, and I think those laws definitely make sense in that context if that's what they're looking for. It seems to me it's only a matter of time before it is, at the very least, decriminalised across the rest of Australia, but also probably made legal and then monetised in some way, and just like is happening in the US right now.
It's a huge industry on the back of it, isn't it, in the US? It's just gone gangbusters.
Well, I mean, it's definitely, it's a large-ish industry. I think there was, certainly in the investment world, this huge clamoring around marijuana stocks. Everyone seemed to think when it's legalized, it's going to be this huge thing. But really, I mean, what is weed? It's kind of in the name. It's really easy to grow. It can survive in most kind of warm areas. It's really not difficult to cultivate. You just need a stretch of land. So a lot of people finding out that it's really easy to manufacture it. Getting the licenses from the government's probably a bit more difficult. But it's just kind of turned into another commodity that's really easy to produce. So in terms of being a manufacturer of it, it's not a very rewarding thing. And all these companies that were kind of on the front foot in a way, if they were already producing medical marijuana, so they were just able to switch straight from medical marijuana to supplying sellers in the US, they're finding out that where they were seen as being these really golden companies that were amazing and going to produce a lot of money, they're actually going to be on really tight margins because everyone can grow it if they've got a stretch of land, and everyone at the moment who can get a license is actually growing it in the US. So it's become more about just trying to secure contracts and everything. Having said that, I think that it is selling. A lot of it is actually selling in the US. So in terms of it being a large industry, I suppose so, although it's still way behind alcohol and I suppose a lot of other things.
A lot of big tobacco companies were investing in it, weren't they?
I believe so, yeah. One of the really large, I think Tilray Growth, which was one of the large producers in the US, was, I think they've been trying to, or one of the big tobacco companies has been trying to buy them out just to get a share. Yeah, so I just wanted to also talk about the effects of weed as well, because I think it's interesting. I think there's a lot of misinformation out there from both sides. People saying that weed's going to kill you, which I don't think it will. People saying that weed is some miracle drug that's going to cure cancer, which I think it's pretty obvious that it's not. So I did make a few points as well around what weed does and how it can affect you. So on the negative side, it's not good for teenagers generally. I think that that's pretty widely agreed. The effect of smoking marijuana as a teenager can be that it can affect the development of your brain. It can affect the area of your brain responsible for self-control and planning, which means that it can actually lead to much more serious addictions when you're older, just because it can also affect the reward system in your brain as well, which means that you will go looking for some rewards like other drugs, in other words. So it's pretty bad stuff when you're a teenager. Obviously, it can give you lung cancer as well, which is pretty bad, and it can apparently affect your memory as well if you're a long time user. I think just using it once or twice probably isn't going to have a large effect on you. I think it's also been linked to psychosis as well. So if you've already got the traits that allow you to have psychosis, it can trigger your first episode, which is really bad. So it can be a bad drug, but I tend to think of it as being pretty much on par with alcohol, which can be a harming drug. But generally speaking, moderate use is probably not going to do you any harm if you're using it when you're older, which I think is the same for alcohol as well. And so I think if you use it after about 25, it's probably not going to have a large effect on your brain unless you've got the psychosis thing, which obviously would be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
It can also help you with pain, and it can help with your appetite if you're on chemotherapy drugs, and it can assist with some severe mental conditions as well. So I think some patients who are severely depressed have been treated with, I don't know if it's actually marijuana, as if they sit down and smoke it, or if it is just some extract of it that they take. But yeah, it can be good, can be bad, but if you do it in moderation, it's probably not going to do you any harm.
So you think this was just inevitable?
Well, I do. I think that if you look at the war on drugs, as it's being termed, it hasn't been shown to be effective at all. Really, people still do them, regardless of whether or not it's legal. And the process of illegalizing it has just made it easier for criminals to get money out of this process instead of the government making money on tax revenue. And it also pushes people into the prison system. So I think that generally speaking, it's good news.
Okay.
I've got to say I don't particularly think it's necessarily a good drug. I've used it before when I was in Amsterdam and where it is legal, and I don't think it's anything special, but I think it should be legalized just for the point of, helping out the people that actually need medical help with their drug problems, as opposed to getting pushed into the criminal system if they use drugs, if that makes sense.
What do you think, Axe?
Yeah, I think it is inevitable as well. And also, I guess, how do I phrase it? The cost of continuing the criminalization is probably worse than allowing it to be legal. I suppose, the cost on the legal system, prisons, the effect on people's lives, I think is probably heavier than, legalizing it in this case, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. I do actually have some information on areas that it has been legalized in as well. So where it's been legalized, usage rates have risen slightly, but not by a very large margin. So where people were using it before, they're still using it. Some people have also started using it, but the number doesn't seem to be very high. The government has increased their revenue from it in the states that it was legalized. Apparently there has been a significant decrease in violent crime in the border states of the US. So I think a lot of the marijuana in the US was brought from Mexico. So there has been a decrease in violent crime there. And as well, apparently there hasn't been any real change in the general medical situation of the community, because none of the tax money that's been gained from legalizing marijuana has actually been put into the health system. So there aren't really any stats there.
Well, they mostly sound like positive numbers.
Well, that's the thing. I think that they are. And I think that's always been the argument, that once it's legalized, it will actually help people a lot. But the money needs to be put into the medical system to help people properly, which I don't think has been in the US.
No, well, their medical system's never been good.
Well, that's it, yeah. And I think that there are other countries where marijuana and other substances have been legalized and money has been put into rehabilitation instead of the criminal system, and that has apparently helped a lot.
Thanks again for joining me, Alex.
Not a problem, David. Pleasure as always.
And thanks for joining us, Axel.
No worries, thank you.
You can follow and get in touch with us on Twitter at Tangential Soup, and you can find this week's show notes for more information about today's topics at tsp.fm/302. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider sharing it with anyone you think might also, and we'll talk to you again next week. Bye.
Ciao.
Bye.
You looking forward to going back to study, Axeman?
Yeah.
Was it T-minus 2 weeks?
2 weeks today, yeah.
That's a brave decision, Axel.
I couldn't do it. Once was more than enough. More than enough.
Do you think that you're particularly talented at studying now that you've done it so much?
Yeah, you'll just cruise through now.
I definitely improved the second time, so I'll see how I go.
Do you take notes like during lectures or not?
Yes. Yep. I took a lot of notes.
You're a note taker.
Yeah, well, the second time. May have correlated to why I did so well.
I found if I took notes, I didn't follow it as well. Like...
Yeah, that's understandable.
Yeah.
I guess it's more like the lecturers were usually 90% of them were really good, and they had really detailed like presentations, which you could just download off the student portal. And then the notes I took were usually the extra things they said, which weren't in the notes that they had.
True.
Just to sort of like remind me, everything they talked about, because usually it could be good stuff.
Yeah, it's usually helpful. Mostly. Do they do proper recordings and things in case you miss stuff at RMIT?
They try to with varying success.
Yeah, Swinburne was the same. I think everyone was meant to, but whether it happened or not was pretty hit or miss.
Well, the average age of the lecturers was like 60 something. I don't know. So
yeah, it's probably part of the problem.
Their heart was in the right place. One guy like halfway through a lecture and just like, oh, I forgot to turn my thing on, or it's running out of batteries, or
like the mic or something.
Yeah, it was like a little pocket. I think it was like a dictaphone or
right. Yeah.
Will
you have to do like a TAFE component for your thing, Alex?
Yeah, probably.
Like one day a week or something?
Definitely, yeah. At the moment, though, I've applied for several things, and so I've been getting emails from Seek about how many people have been applying for the positions I have. For some apprenticeship roles, it's been over 300.
Wow.
So...
Is there more supply than demand, is there?
Well, yeah, I didn't realize there was so much more supply than demand. At the moment, I'm actually speaking to recruiters. I was actually going to meet a recruiter today, but she had to reschedule to tomorrow. Just about getting something in the meantime. Probably something corporate, unfortunately.
Back to insurance?
Well, it'll be probably superannuation or insurance, yeah. Just because that's where I've got the experience, and I can get some pretty good paying roles in that area. So,
what are you doing, Alex?
Well, I was going to do a carpentry apprenticeship.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I just got sick of working corporate and sick of sitting on my bum all day, and thought this is the time.